Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Emanations of Light Podcast. I'm your host, Audrey. But before we begin, if you're new to my podcast, I'm Audrey, and I serve as a Divine Sovereign Ascension Guide, healer, and multidimensional artist. And I've posted all my links in the description page if you desire to work with me or purchase any of my sacred malas. So today I have a very, very special guest with me, my beloved sister Jilly. Jilly is a quantum healer, facilitator, seer, animal communicator, guide, and fellow podcast host. You might remember her from the Ascension Temple or the Healing Ascension Temple podcast that we've done together. So I'm so glad that she's with me today on the Emanations of Light podcast. And I've also posted all her links at the end of the podcast. So if you desire to work with her, oh my God, this woman is truly an amazing quantum healer and seer. And it's an honor to have her on the podcast. So welcome, Jilly.
Oh, pleased to be here. It's so lovely. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. So, everybody, oh my gosh, we have such an amazing topic for everyone today. We're going to just kind of do some heart shares. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about the dark night of the soul and just jump in a little bit about shadow work. So we're just kind of, just describe a little bit what the dark night of the soul is and shadow work and why this is such a difficult initiation for us to maneuver. And But we're also going to share some practical tools and resources for everybody to help you integrate, to maneuver, to understand what is happening when we're in these dark phases or initiation phases. So, excuse me. So, a dark night of the soul is really when the soul is kind of stirring things up within us. So, it's separating, right? So, us, the human person, then the soul starts to things up to kind of get get our attention, so to speak. And this can be described in clinical terms as an existential crisis because it also appears with periods of deep depression, feelings of deep turmoil. We sometimes lack motivation, or all of a sudden, like a deep anxiety for no reason starts to kind of just bubble up. It's sometimes the lack of interest in our lives, and then also deep fears about the future. So lots of different emotions start to kind of well up in the conscious. And also, a dark night of the soul can also be initiated by like a loss. So through heartbreak, divorce, breakdowns, financial struggles, death of a loved one, right? Or a deep desire to change your life, completely go off, in a different direction from your current reality. And also, it's what we're even seeing right now in the outer world. So, from like all the collapses, the turmoils, the fires, earthquakes, flooding, all the disclosure. So all that stuff is also, part of this dark night of the soul. But behind these initiations events, what's really happening is they're meant to trigger an awakening of ourselves. And when we say awakening, I'm talking about a spiritual awakening. So our spiritual nature is kind of coming online. So these are designed to crack us open to our true selves, our spiritual selves. And these events and or breakdowns are often, very challenging, obviously, and very painful. And but it's meant to challenge our way of living and thinking. These are really designed to invoke an awakening to something deeper for our lives. They break us down, unravel all our hidden falsehoods or insecurities, and a lot of times all the ways we continue to hide our true selves, and how we bend to appease others, all the masks we wear, the fears we carry, the jobs we hate, the relationships that are not good for us, and really all the separation that we have about ourselves, our true selves, and even our relationship with the divine. And as we said, these events are really extremely painful to experience and understand, especially if we're unaware of our unconscious wounding and our shadow aspects. And this is why we embark on this sacred spiritual journey, because it's one of the most important things to master, because it helps us maneuver through these really challenging events, excuse me. So now that I kind of got that out of the way, I'm gonna just let Jilly kind of chime in here, and she can, we're just gonna have this sacred conversation about the dark night of the soul, and then also shadow work. And we'll again offer some practical steps and insights and guidance that you can use for yourself, to help you maneuver through some of these phases and stages of initiations. So, Jilly.
Yeah, yeah, it's not a for the faint-hearted, shall we say. It really isn't. But it's something that is necessary to go through for your personal inner growth and development, all of your as you say, the wounds and stuff like that. It's you've got to face it all. You really, really do. And the way I look at the particularly the shadow is whenever something triggers you, whenever you get something that I don't know makes you angry or gets you flustered, really gets under your skin type of thing. That is a brilliant, brilliant sort of alarm bell for you of an area of your life that needs healing, needs looking at, needs attention. It can lead to a full-blown, dark night of the soul that Audrey's, carefully explained there. But the shadow aspects that we have are are our own unhealed parts of us, the parts that we don't always like about ourselves,
Mhm.
even the ego, the any even the most of these wounds, really, it's the when it boils down to it, it's core wounds that is very, very often comes from the inner child. So when we're very, very young and there's
Mhm.
been traumas and, for whatever reason and different degrees and such like, um, the core wounds are often instilled then. There's also another level of this. There can be ancestry wounds that get and contracts that get passed on
Mhm.
that lead for you to then heal and clear, um, so that it sort of lays within your auric field, your soul. Um, yeah, it's big and it's
So,
a subject that isn't always understood, fully awareness around it's something that you always want to walk away from because it can be
yeah.
quite uncomfortable and ugh, kind of thing. And when you're really, really on your knees, absolutely on your knees, the only way is up. It really is.
Yeah.
And with tools and assistance to help you sort of navigate all this process, um, it becomes something that eventually becomes a, an awareness that you sort of have the protocols to be in place so that you, as soon as you've got triggered with something, you're like, ah, that's the awareness I need to be right. I need to look at this. That's the area. Right. What's the core wounding? What's the actual nitty-gritty of what's showing up? Okay, right. I thought I'd healed that. Oh, obviously I haven't. Onion layers again. Um, so it's an ongoing process as well. It's not like you go through Dark Night of the Soul once. Oh no, you it can be many, many different layerings of it. Yeah, I've had quite a few in this lifetime. And I've had you know the inner child woundings, all sorts of things like majority of us have, and we work through and have to basically love everything about it. You have to give it so much love, so much. Um, just yeah,
Attention, right?
I'm trying to not use some of the words that I would normally use, but
Yeah,
basically, yeah, you want to love the crap out of it because it really is like that. If you love it, you're shedding light onto it. When there's light onto it, there is no more darkness there
yeah.
because the light just
So I wanted to touch on something that you kind of said there when you said ancestral and some of these things. So like, let's help the audience understand how those things trigger a dark night of the soul. Like, so how are they related? So like if we have these ancestral wounds or the inner child,
okay.
traumas and stuff,
Yeah,
so how does that relate to a dark night of the soul and what?
right. Oh, yeah, I get what you're saying. So basically, um, when we have the awareness that absolutely everything is energy
Mm-hmm.
and everything is a contract, okay? When you've got a full awareness of that is what this holographic playing field that we're in right now, everything is a contract, okay? So those
So are you
uh
saying kind of like so like if for instance someone is having an issue with like a relationship and they have they've been in a cycle of maybe perhaps abuse or even financial difficulties
yeah,
um or just are happen to fall into the same type of pattern. So
yeah,
what you're saying is that and what we're saying that
yeah.
that's embedded in
It
the
well,
or that's a contract, right? Is that what you're
yeah. One it can be a contract that you've actually come in with that
saying?
is actually yours to work through and clear
Mm-hmm.
for you to, map out and let, have but what I when we're talking about ancestral, well the what I'm getting at there is our oh, we've suddenly got a little bit deep. Um
I know, I love this.
Oh dear. I tend to do this. So because the most of the work that I seem to be focusing on and doing at this sort of last few years, this time, is very much about soul, your
Mm-hmm.
own soul, animal souls, human souls, that it doesn't matter. It's a soul, okay? Now, in families, for example, let's say for example your dad was um um uh, uh, had an awful was carrying an awful lot of trauma, okay? Now that trauma could have been placed on him by his father and further back through other nefarious type of situations, okay? Everything can then get sort of offloaded, like contracted into the next newborn.
God.
Um, that kind of thing. So it goes
So you're
down the
kind of carrying
generations.
the
So
weight of your
yes,
ancestors, your family
yes,
lineage, right?
yes,
And
yes,
and this
that
is why we also have like the same kind of tendencies for, or likes of our family, right? Like, so then it's
yeah,
like a familial type of, so we
yes,
can carry the good baggage, but also carry the unseen spiritual baggage that most
yes.
people are really not aware of that they're carrying.
Exactly, yes.
Is
Now,
that
a
called
lot of that
epigenetic,
baggage,
something like that, right?
well, a lot of that baggage is
Mhm.
actually nefarious in the first place. It's not good baggage. It's
Oh,
not
got it.
here for, it's not your choice to have carried it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not your generations before you. It's not their choice to carry it either. It's been placed on them. So
Mm-hmm.
there's those kind of things. So when you come into a situation like that,
Mm-hmm.
there's contracts that need breaking and clearing as well, um, as well as but it's being aware of what is a contract and what is what's been placed on you and what is yours to then work
Yeah,
through and
right.
learn
Because
from and
there's so
clear.
many layers
Yeah,
to our body. And so the difference is knowing, as in the sacred awakening journey, you start to, have these levels of awareness of what's going on in your life. So first of all, it's that deep connection to who you are as a spiritual person. Then, then you start to have more memories and more like information that starts to flood into your consciousness about, like, so pattern, you start to really kind of see the patterns in our lives, right? You can kind of make sense. So it's like a beautiful puzzle that kind of starts to come online, so to speak. And so also these memories and these, so I love that I have Jilly on, first of all, so I want to just let the audience know that Jilly really specializes on contracts and the soul's evolution. So like, so this is a wonderful topic for her to have, to have her on, because we can really kind of go in a little bit deeper to explain the nuances of the dark night of the soul and what shadow work really is and what it entails. So these things um resides because we're like human, little beautiful human computers and avatars, and these fields reside in like our akashic, people know, are kind of familiar with the akashic fields, and because we're multidimensional, so there's like lots of layers to who we are. So what you're saying is those contracts, you're able to kind of go into someone's field, and do they reside in the Akash, or are they somewhere else, or how do you access those, and how do you know,
well,
how
I
can you tell
think
the
it's
difference, basically?
okay. So basically with the um, for example, when we're looking at um, a soul surgery, for example, okay, which
Mm-hmm.
is a whole nother topic on its own. But
Yeah,
basically,
we'll
that
talk
is
about
very,
that.
very much about contracts, okay, about
Mm-hmm.
clearing them, ending them. Now that's done with our lovely beloved John and Stella as
Mm-hmm.
well. That they are absolutely phenomenal guys, by the way.
Yeah.
Um, and the so it's working out what is yours and what is not yours, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you're so your question was more of where are these contracts? Well, they're often in a place that we really don't want to go into in this particular session
Okay.
because it leads into more of the sovereignty sides of things and the fact that our our birth certificates basically,
Mm.
say
Yeah.
that we're actually dead at sea, we're not living beings and all this kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it sort
And
of takes it down that kind of road, kind of thing as to where they are. But if you just think of them as being in a particular in a drawer somewhere that you don't really want to go to, but it's in a, in a controlled, um, the bad dudes kind of
Another, it's like
place.
another secret,
Another,
it's another
yeah.
secret vault, basically.
Yeah.
So,
Let's go with that kind of thing.
so can we say
Now,
that?
when the good or the divine or your divine blueprint,
Mhm.
now that is in the, like the Akashic libraries, if you like, that is accessible, and that's what people are, often look for when they're like, why am I here? What's my purpose? That kind of thing.
Mhm.
Um, but but the reality is really one of your main purposes is to get through all your shadow work, get through all of your dark nights of the soul, get through that journey so that you can come into who you truly divinely are.
So then this is why, and this is such a beautiful emanation, because it's like when you really start to go through these layers and these unravelings, then you have a better comprehension of what really truly is yours. What is a contract? What's in that secret vault? A, how do you get there, right? Or if you want to get there and remove yourself, right? Well, we'll be talking about sovereignty too, because to like really educate people on sovereignty, but it's these multi layers, and it's not until you do and you learn that nothing is separate. So, like that deep depression that someone may be having, or those deep rooted fears that are kind of surfacing right now, those insecurities and all of that. The only way to really get down to the nitty gritty of that is to kind of start going into some of our shadow work, right? Is that what you're kind of
Yeah, absolutely.
saying here to
you
someone,
become,
to our
yeah,
listeners, right?
sorry. Yeah, I mean, basically, you become to, know thyself, basically.
Mhm.
It's
So how
but
does
a
someone
really, sorry,
how
say
does
again.
someone get into that? Like if like someone said,
Oh,
"Oh, you know what? I'm noticing this repeating deep fear of whatever, fear or relationship, or that my spouse is going to leave me, or like, oh, I realize I don't really want that spouse," or whatever situation
yeah.
is
Well,
arising.
often like that is very much like an abandonment wound, those kind of,
Hmm.
the core when we're talking about core wounds and things. Um, and maybe as a maybe you weren't parented as well as you could have been through
Hmm.
whatever different reason, or maybe the other baggage, shall we say, that was thrown on you. Or maybe it's your own um line that had your own soul's previous incarnations, if you like, that have had this cycle of abandonment wound and stuff like that running all the way through, and now this lifetime, which is so very important because it's all lifetimes all rolled into one in these current in this current blooming thing that we're going through. Yeah, so I've gone on to another tangent, and
No,
and
that's
I'm
okay.
really
I
sorry.
love it.
I
I
find it so hard to stay on subject. I really
No, I
do.
love
So
it because
apologies.
it's part of the stuff we'll be talking about anyway. So we're just kind of
Yeah.
dropping lots of little nuggets. We'll
Yeah,
leave it
yeah.
out. But okay, so
I
then this is
yeah,
where these those are the triggers that we have in our lives, and um we just can't ignore them anymore. It's what we're trying to say.
yeah,
And these are all morsels, little nuggets that are trying to get your attention. And as I, mentioned in the descriptor earlier, it's like this is where the soul really kind of starts to try to get our attention, that it's time for us to really address some of these core wounds, because they have a spiritual component, whether it's in the secret vault or whether it's ancestral or it's our inner child. They're unhealthy patterns. And in order for us to truly evolve and awaken true spiritual ascension, we have to get down into that, to our file cabinets, right? I guess, and find out what the heck is this? Is it a lesson? Is it a, is it a core wound? Or, is it a contract? What is this? Why am I why am I having fear? Why am I being triggered? Why, why am I playing a victim, right? It's like it shows up this way in so many
Yeah.
ways in our
Yeah.
lives, through relationships, through all of our
Yeah. Yeah.
relationships, right?
Hugely.
It's like, why do I keep getting like, earlier on? And so, I'll share a little bit because I like being an open book. That's all right. Like people, I had an abandonment wound. So like people would ignore me, or like I was almost invisible, which I kind of liked it though.
Yeah, that ego self protecting you again.
Right. I've had to go through my own lots of layers of what is this? And why does this pattern keep showing up in my life? Right. So, and for me, it was like, where am I abandoning myself? Right. It's like so that it's been layers, but you don't know until you really start to be present and conscious of everything. And then also there's another layer of like our own dominant feelings and thoughts and our own judgments about ourselves, right, Jilly? Like, and what we're projecting out to other people. And so life is sometimes just really a mirror. It's not always, but it's like it's mirroring back to like, what's, if you're hating on someone, or you're just like, you're judging someone, that no wonder that person doesn't respond lovingly and kind, right? I mean, it's just
Yeah,
almost as kind
absolutely.
of simplistic as that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, anything basically that you don't like about yourself is a really, really good sort of uh signpost
Mm-hmm.
that that's something that you really need to love, because all of this shadow work, all of it really does
Mm-hmm.
boil down to love, really.
I know, right? It's like, where are
Okay.
we
It all
not?
boils down to love. And it's not always easy to love those parts of you that you really don't like, that, that you really don't want to admit to, um, all that kind of things. So um, yeah, so what can we do about it all?
Yeah. How does someone maneuver through like shadow work? Like,
So,
I mean, I know there's so many, you know, uh, there's so many great teachings and offerings, and I know everybody's different. Everyone works differently, and there's different stages of shadow work. And so, but right now for our listeners, what's the and easiest way, or any type of tips that we can offer them on how to embrace shadow work instead of running from it?
yeah, I personally,
Because if you run
if
for
it
it, that's
triggers
called
you,
spiritual
I
bypassing.
love it.
It just gets
Absolutely
worse.
love it. If it's a trigger and it's making you feel a bit, love it, because that's like, oh my God, that's the bit I need to be working on right now. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And more or less, as soon as you've done that, you're already, you're like halfway there.
Okay, so but let's let's even define that. So what do you so are you talking about like if I get fear, or okay, let's
Yeah,
say someone is coming at you, right? Like someone is, reflecting or projecting, they want to
yeah,
control you, or like,
yeah,
or they're, judging you. You're saying to love, you or love them, or what? How does that work?
Well,
How does
well,
that
pretty
look?
much both.
Both.
First of all, yeah, exactly. I mean, you mentioned about mirroring. Yeah, that is a brilliant example of how it's, shown up to you, because
Hmm.
again, it's something, you need to be aware of to work through. So it can come up as that. And yeah, it is very much about I know this is going to sound like really, but you have to love it, love thy neighbor, love, love, love. And I'm like, really? When I was coming to terms with realizing what I've had to do with certain situations, and that let's go, it, well,
Which
for
sometimes is a lot
example,
easier said than
let's go
done.
for an example of bad relationships, your
Yeah.
exes, yeah, all those kind of things, that, for whatever reasons. But you've got to, have compassion, and you've got to have love, because ultimately the teachings of the way of the heart, the excuse me, the ascension protocols and everything,
Mhm.
really does boil down to unity consciousness, and everything is love. So
Yes.
you put down your sword and you pick up the rose. These are all lovely, lovely, our lovely Sister Stella's teachings, really, that it's oh my goodness, I'm
And
so
then
grateful
for
to her.
me,
I really am, for assisting with all of these
and the
journeys for
Boko
me.
Ono prayer is
So
really probably one of my favorites. It releases the trigger, because I know it's like when you're in the trigger, your body is in the trigger. So it's kind of like it's not easy to say, "Oh yeah, yeah, I'm gonna love you." But what
yeah,
I realize when you use the that prayer, it really kind of diffuses the trigger in our body. So I really find that one easier to get out of the trigger when you're
yeah.
being triggered, right?
Do you know, one of the things for me that helped me, really um sort of realize forgiveness, compassion, love,
Hmm.
was, now for animals, for me, they make my heart sing. They really do. They bring me so much joy. And now, if somebody hurts an animal or child, it's that anger that you feel within, and the go-to is want to, to go and chop their whatever's off. But ultimately, when I realized some stuff, now we're not talking evil so much, we're talking dark, okay?
Hmm.
Now, when you so going back also, like, to exes, if you like, when you realize that there's no way someone could treat an animal, a child, or you that badly if they actually knew what love was. There's no
Hmm.
way they could.
Yeah.
There's no way they could abuse an animal if they knew what love was, if they had
Hmm.
compassion. So those people, or whatever they are, need even more love thrown at them. I know that's going to sound like really bizarre, and I'm talking dark, not,
Yeah.
the really, yeah, other stuff.
Yeah.
Um, which again is another subject.
Yes.
But I mean, everything all interlinks. This is why I find it, I love, talking with you, because you keep me on track of what the actual conversation is, rather than, off we go. And we usually spend like 3 hours just chatting away, just, yeah,
Totally. Totally.
about everything. Um, so what were we talking about? We were talking about how we can
So
navigate all of
love, where
this,
you're
and
saying
how
that
we
you
can,
you've
how
just
can we
applied,
really embrace it? Yeah.
yeah, that
So
you realize that person is really in the need of love. And another thing that just made me, we need to really bring to the conversation is that there are, because we are spiritual beings, we are in, we're all spiritual and everything's energy. And so we are sometimes manipulated by unpleasant beings, right?
Yes.
And so sometimes that person that's behaving badly um, is not even aware that they're under the influence of not so
Yes.
positive beings. So
Yes.
sometimes, like, yes, it's that person's, responsibility to clean themselves up and do their own shadow work, but
Yes.
also a lot of times they're being manipulated
Yes.
by these other beings, right? So they're kind of, and there's no other way to really say that, but they're like kind of little mini possessions, right?
Yeah.
And they don't understand that that's what's
Yeah.
happening to them, and then that's why they're behaving not so great, or and even
Yeah.
sometimes ourselves, right? Because I mean, I've
Yeah.
experienced it, I know you've experienced it, where like all of a sudden you just, you we you know get kicked out of our hearts. We
Yeah.
were we had this wound or whatever, and next thing you know, you have these entities messing with you, and you don't know that they're entities, right? You don't know that you're being manipulated, and then all of a sudden you're like, we got angry and we got upset,
Yeah.
and then we're like, right, we're like,
Yeah.
cats, getting thrown in water, right, whatever, right?
Yeah. And
And
it just fuels it all,
it
doesn't it? It
feels it
fuels it
totally.
all.
And you don't have, when you're in it, you're not aware of like, oh shoot, I'm being manipulated by
Yeah.
these freaking beings that just got a rouse out of me, whatever, right? They're utilizing me to create separation consciousness, because that's what separation consciousness really means, right? Like anytime you're you're in judgment, or you're angry, or you're just hating on someone else, it's a lot of times it's not even us. It's these other energies and entities and beings that are like manipulating us to create the havoc. This is,
Yeah.
but this is the whole world. This is why we're talking about like the outer world also, experiencing her dark night of the soul, because what it's showing us that, you know, we've been manipulated for so long, like through politics and religion and government and all this. And what that is, it creates this division, it creates this havoc. And we've just gotten so freaking used to, or people have gotten so used to that, that's just the way it is. I mean, you think of like, look at all the TV programs, like all the housewives and all that, celebrity, whatever you call it, my mind just went blank. But anyways, they just, are promoting drama and
Yeah.
division, because what it's saying is like, oh, this is just normal family interactions, right?
Yeah.
And in our familiar
Yeah. Yeah.
familia, those interactions become like, there's always like someone that wants to be the matriarch, and and if you're not following the rules, then we're not gonna support you, or we're not gonna show up. And that's all
Yeah.
like, that's not true love. That's not like,
Yeah.
that's not unity consciousness. And
Exactly.
it's not
Exactly.
normal, right?
Yeah.
That's one of the things that
Yeah.
Kelly and I were having this conversation before we got on the podcast. Was
Yeah.
all like, I used to think that was normal, but it isn't normal, right? Like, that's not
Exactly.
normal
Yeah. And
behavior.
yeah, and when we're saying, like the answer is to love them and stuff, you don't necessarily have to go up to them and give them, a massive hug and be in their face. I'm not saying that. You can love them from afar. Yeah.
Totally. And
And,
thank
and
you.
if it's like exactly a narcissistic type of situation, shall we say,
Totally.
that is
We're
then
talking about true,
triggered you.
yeah, we're
Yeah.
talking about true love, but the love comes from the self. So if someone is trying to manipulate you, they're trying to abuse you, they're attacking you, they're trying to control you, that's, you can love them from afar and saying, you know what,
Yes.
I love myself more. That's one of the things that I've had to learn really in my life, was that yes, I'm loving and sweet, but I have to apply that to myself first.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know,
It's
and
boundaries, isn't it? It's boundaries as well.
boundaries, about self-love is
Yeah.
health
So important.
boundaries.
Yeah.
And you sometimes have to close the doors on a lot of people.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. 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 So, I mean, help with, dealing with your own personal shadow and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. That let's take it for the most classic form. That part that there's a wounding that you're carrying that needs healing and stuff like that, which
Yeah.
often stems from the inner child. It stems from ego. Ego's always there because it's been like that little voice on your shoulder that's gone in your ear, keeping you safe, keeping you low, keeping you silent, whatever, protecting
Mm.
you, keeping you small, blah blah. Now, when those when you're aware and you've identified those things, that's when the you can do some inner child work, and that's another subject as well. But you
Yeah.
can, when we're talking about tools and either working with either of us or somebody else or whatever, just to give you some pointers and assistance with helping you through this if you have absolutely no clue and where to start. um, but ultimately, when you're given these tools to help navigate all this stuff, it's your own inner journey. No one can really hold your hand through it. You've got
Mm.
to do it on your own. And I know that is one of the hardest things because you feel so alone when you're in it as well. And
Totally.
but it's
You
having.
feel so isolated.
Yeah,
You're
exactly,
just,
exactly. But
but
that
you
is your
gotta
strength.
battle
That,
your own freaking demons, right? You
yeah,
gotta go inward. I always say, and
yeah,
I'll keep saying this on every podcast, well, sovereignty and the dissension. True ascension requires a dissension into your own shadow selves, our own vault, our
yeah,
own underbelly, whatever you want to call it. It's inwards to
yeah,
find, to really get to know yourself and find your own wounding, because
yeah,
uh, you know we're multi-layered, so we have to really have to establish this intimate connection with thyself, not what other
exactly.
people want you to be, not what you we were taught to be by authorities and society, whatever, right? It's this intimate connection with the heart, with the soul, and and get to know yourself.
Yeah, yeah, totally agree. Totally agree.
So wonderful. I mean, it's like we've covered so much, and now
Yeah,
now I got lots of other little morsels for some other conversations.
yeah, yeah. I mean, we could talk forever, really, couldn't we, on all different things because it all naturally rolls into everything. But
It does
I
roll.
did try to stay on topic. I really, really did.
No, you did wonderful. I mean, we did wonderful.
We did,
Um,
we did, we did. Yeah, but I
but
mean, it does naturally sort of turn into other things because
it's
it that's what it is. It's everything's everything.
totally.
But
But
yeah,
yeah,
oh,
no,
thank you so
thank
much
you
for
so
chatting with
much,
me, Audrey. I
Julie.
really, really loved it. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I love having you on. And I'll have you back on for some other beautiful
Yeah,
topics. And
brilliant, brilliant.
I hope people got, some beautiful morsels out of this conversation. I hope we planted lots of little divine seeds
Yeah.
for you as well. I hope we made sense.
Yeah, you
Just
got to
because
keep up with the way the brain goes. Like,
I know, right? We sometimes it's hard to kind of bring in
oh,
that knowledge into a cohesive
whatever. Yeah,
conversation, but we're also trying to just be real with who we are, share our hearts, and share ourselves. And, this is who we are. So, I always say, take it or
Brilliant.
leave it, but it's here for you, right? But, anyways, thank you, everybody. We want to thank you for joining us today. And, like I said, below, and we have the links to our services and resources. And we'll be coming back on to be sharing lots of other different stuff. I think me and my beloved sister here are ready to kind of pick up on our animal podcast.
Yay!
So we'll be sharing and talking to the little animals again. So thank you all for listening. We love you. We send you so much love. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to both of us. I tell you, everybody, Jilly is one of the most amazing freaking seers. And I don't say this lightly. I don't give a lot of props to a lot of people, but this woman has done her due diligence. She's done all the work. She's been on this true ascension path for quite some time. She is an amazing healer, quantum facilitator, seer, just amazing. And it's an honor to be walking this journey with her.
Thank you.
She's my go-to when I need some help. So I highly, highly, highly recommend her. And she is an amazing space holder. So
Oh, thank you, Audrey.
I
Thank
love
you.
you,
Love you
Lily. I
too.
love you. I
Love
love
you,
you.
love you,
And
love
we'll
you.
see you soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye.